Guys, this is so exciting. Jeff.
Man.
Dude, I can't believe we're here with the one and only DMC.
Good morning.
Darryl,
Yes, Darryl McDaniels, you are
So
a legend. We're excited. Tell me, I'm happy we're interviewing you, but why are we at Comic-Con?
That's the first question I've been getting.
Yeah.
Well, the story goes like this. Before hip-hop came over the bridge from the Bronx into Queens in the early 70s, and before 70s rock radio turned me on to rock and roll and folk rock, you know, Dylan, Stones, the Beatles, and all that. All I did as a kid was read, collect, and draw comic books.
Yeah.
That's all I did. Get it, draw it, read it, get it, draw it, read it, get it, draw it, till I couldn't have no use for it. That started in 2nd grade. Hip hop, I think I was in 8th grade. So when hip hop.
So this is your first love.
Right, yes.
Yes.
It's not Darryl trying to do comic books
Right.
to make money. It's not me being a rapper trying to do another venture. If it wasn't for comic books, I would have never had the confidence that I have in life.
I love that. I kind of look at
Yeah.
comic books as escapism.
Oh,
And
for sure.
yeah, and so when you were where were you living at the time,
Yeah.
and where was that
It was an
world
escape.
taking you to?
It was an escape. I went to Catholic school.
Yeah.
I'm traumatized.
Wow.
The nuns.
You
and the
made
priests.
it out though.
Yeah.
How your knuckles? Did they get you with the ruler?
All of that.
Yeah.
Sister Nazare with the ruler.
Woo.
I never forget. It was in 1st grade. I didn't do penmanship. They don't even have them. Maybe you have your penmanship book, but before you got the book, you used to have to just write your name on this yellow card, and you used to have to write it in script in cursive.
Right.
And I didn't do it right. She took that ruler, whack.
Yeah.
Like
That
I
was-
was traumatized. Remember the scene in the Blues Brothers?
Yeah,
I was like, I
yeah,
wouldn't
that's
do
his
that.
movie.
But I mean, you're right about escapism. I went to Catholic school. I wore glasses, and I read comic books. So my life as a kid was miserable.
Yeah. I was like, so things
But
are going
when
good.
I made it home and got into them comic books, it took me into a world that was perfect. I was safe. I was powerful. And one of the things that the comics also did, it gave me confidence of how to exist and survive in that world.
Right.
You know, my skills, my spider skills, had me avoiding the bullies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Reading Incredible Hulk, it was like, okay, if this dude messed with me one more time,
Right.
I'm about to go Bruce Banner on him.
That's
You know
right.
what I'm saying? But like you said, it was my escape because I understand the whole bullying, teasing thing, but those characters in those comic books, I saw myself in them. Like my whole career, I was always, I'm DMC, I come from Queens. My name is Darryl Mack, I live in Queens. I come from Queens, and SpiderMan lived in Queens.
Right.
So these comic books, even though it was a fantasy, pretend, make-believe world, it wasn't fake to me.
Right.
It was real. And if you look at those words, make-believe, 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 make the world believe who you are. So comic books set me up for hip-hop. Hip-hop comes over the bridge. I never wanted to be in show business.
Right.
When hip-hop came over the bridge, I was like, oh, shoot, you could tell stories about who you are over music. So because of the comic books, I started writing these little raps about me, just pretending to be the most powerful entity in the hip-hop universe. Thor was the son of Odin from Asgard. He had a brother named Loki, and he had a hammer. So I'm from Hollis. I was like, I'm Darryl. I'm from Hollis. My father's name is Byford. I got a brother named Alfred, and I got a Mike. So I became son of Byford, brother of Al.
Oh.
Banner's my mother and runs my pal. The comic books gave me a way to tell people who I was, who I am, what am I doing. Without those comic books and without hip-hop, I had no way to release my expression.
Well,
So interesting.
not only is that
what I'm saying?
amazing, it kind of brings us full circle to where we are now. We look at the
Yeah.
unbelievable success of Black Panther, and we
Yes.
are almost in the world of black fantasy, African American fantasy.
Exactly.
What would you tell a young guy that might say, I want to get into fantasy, I'm into comic
Right.
books, I'm into things that I like, but my friends might make fun of me?
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Right? Because like when I see a young guy with like a skateboard, I'm like, I was into that, but if I had tried to pull that out in the early
No,
80s,
it's just
my
like,
friends
yeah.
would have taken it
It's
and
just
thrown
like when Run-DMC did Rock Box, King of Rock, and then when we did Walk This Way. There's a lot of kids that was in the black kids that was in the metal.
Right.
Black kids that was in the rock. But the perception of the world is the white people do this and the black people do that. When Run DMC, when we did that video with Steven Tyler and Joe Perry, people say when Steven Tyler took that mic stand and knocked down that wall in the video,
so
that
symbolic.
didn't just happen in the video, it happened in the world.
Right.
So for all those kids, the advice is this: do not be ashamed of who you are. Matter of fact, it's the so-called real world that got all the problems.
Right.
Think about that. Now, when it comes to the make-believe thing, I got a lot of kids in trouble. I say, when they ever tease you about being into that corny, make-believe, pretend, fantasy stuff, you stand up on your desk in the middle of your classroom and you beat your chest like King Kong and you say you goddamn right. And this is the reason why. I was pretending, I was making believe that I was the king of rock. Now when I walk this earth, what do they call me?
The king of rock.
When I walk in the room, Jay-Z, Eminem, Lil Wayne, they don't say Darryl, rapper, yo, the king's here. Everywhere I go, I could go to a bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of Jewish people in there doing a bar mitzvah, and I was at a bat mitzvah. A bat mitzvah is a bar mitzvah for a girl. I didn't know that. I go there, the king is here. Everywhere I go, they call me king, and I laughed to myself because I was just joking. Comic books, especially Marvel comic books, taught me something about how to survive. To all you little kids out there, and you grown-ups too, taught me how to survive and make it in this world. No matter what problems you got, no matter what odds you up against you, no matter what adversity that you're facing. Marvel comic books taught me this. You define yourself with an adjective that's powerful and positive, and you tell the world who you are. For instance, if I say the amazing, you'll say
Spider-Man.
If I say the incredible, you will say
Hulk.
And if I say the mighty, you will say
Thor.
So here's this little mild-mannered Catholic school kid, Darryl McDaniels, getting bullied and teased on because he went to Catholic school. He's a nerdy little geeky kid, and he loves comic books. DMC is the initials of my name. D from Darryl, MC from McDaniels. But Marvel comic books taught me to define myself with some powerful adjectives. So mild-mannered school kid Darryl McDaniels, when I step on the stage and touch that mic, I transform into the mighty king of rock. So now Darryl McDaniels doesn't stand for DMC.
That crowd cheered right on time because that was the best thing I've ever heard. That was so dope. Yeah, keep going.
Perfect timing. Yeah, everything is meant to be. DMC is no longer Darryl McDaniels. Now DMC stands for the devastating mic controlling DMC. So all you have to do is not be ashamed of who you are. When I put this comic book out, all of a sudden, all of these geeks started coming out the woodwork.
Right.
The comic book came about because of this too. I didn't do the comic book because I wanted to do the comic book. This is how the comic book came about. I went for a music meeting up at Atlantic Records, and I was meeting with a young man named Riggs Morales. Riggs Morales was Eminem's right-hand man over at Shady Records for the rise of that great empire. And Eminem himself. By the way, y'all, Eminem is a big geeky nerd, probably geeky and nerdier than me.
I love that.
SpiderMan is all over his wallpapers. But I go to this meeting with Riggs Morales, this executive guy, and he's sitting there. And he says, just what y'all said. He says, yo, D, I'm usually very professional and I never fanboy out. And he used these words, but you was like my superhero, man.
Yeah.
The way you rhymed, the way you sound, and this and that. So he just asked me, what was it like when he was a little kid? And I told him exactly what I told you. Well, I went to Catholic school my whole life, and all I did was read, collect, and draw comic books. Rick said, comic books? And I was like, yeah, comic books. He said, he looked around. He said, comic books? And I was like, yeah, comic book. We sat there for 3 hours and talked about comic books. We thought it was just the music that we had in common. Prior to that, I grew up in Queens. He was a kid that grew up in the Bronx. Puerto Rican kid from the Bronx. Same thing. We are all products of pop culture. All of us, no matter who you are, I don't care what religion you are, whatever you was beholding when you was a kid. My whole life, I am sitting here right now, I'm Herman Munster. You know what I'm saying? I'm Gomez Adams.
I love
I'm George Jefferson. I'm Bugs Bunny. I'm Star Trek. I'm Space 1999.
Well, it makes sense.
We are all products of that.
All of these characters that all the people you're talking about, all the characters from television,
Right.
you take a little bit of
No
all of
matter
those people
what generation.
with you.
I'm just an example. No matter when I came, I'm the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
I would come home from school, do your homework, eat your dinner. And when I'm watching TV, I'm watching the Brady Bunch.
Right.
And I Dream of Jeannie. And most of the kids was watching I Dream of the Genie, not
Right.
to see Major Nelson.
Right,
They
yeah.
wanted to see Genie because he was fly.
If
They wanted to see her
if that's
boobs.
true, that means we're Run DMC.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
just the same thing. Somebody had asked me, when did you see this influence? Well, for hip hop, it came to life. Remember when the Wu-Tang came out? When Wu-Tang
Like it was
came
yesterday.
out, they was talking about kung fu movies. There was people that didn't care about Run DMC, Public Enemy, or nobody. Didn't care about hip hop, but because they could connect to Wu-Tang because Wu-Tang was advertising the same movies, those people now are fans of hip-hop. Then eventually they'll get introduced to the old school guys before Wu-Tang and what's coming after. So I'm this little kid, I'm the Godzilla movies. But I had all of this in me and no way to let it out. So imagine there's a trillion kids just like that. But they got the kids nowadays, and even adults who's held you've held it in your whole life. Why are you going to be ashamed though? Hip hop gave me a way to make cool everything the so-called world didn't think cool. Now, glasses. When I was thank you.
Glasses.
Yeah. When I was a kid, glasses are cool now. You know what I'm saying? But when I was a kid, it wasn't cool. It was, hey, Four Eyes. Remember
Bro,
that saying? Hey,
used-
binoculars.
My dad
hey,
took me to Lens Crafters and got me the worst glasses
Yeah,
ever,
we
and that
all
was the
did.
only option. And
Yeah, we all did.
now I'm asking, could I get glasses just for fashion reasons?
For sure.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. But before the Gazelles, I was spectacles, Four Eyes. But when I got in hip hop, now when I get on this mic, here's something for all you MFers that was teasing me because I wore my glasses. Hip hop empowered me to say D's for doing it all of the time. M's for the rhymes that are mine. C's for cool as can be. And Rum would say, why you wear those glasses? I'm like, so I can see. I didn't wear them to be cool.
Yeah.
I didn't wear them to be fat. I wore them because I couldn't see. Now, all of a sudden, people that don't even need glasses want to wear glasses.
Now, Darryl, I gotta
see, that's the power.
I wasn't expecting this motivation because I love it. I'm all about positivity.
Yeah.
Do you convey this positivity in your comic books now?
Yes, that's a great question. So I'm sitting there with Riggs. We amped
You got
now.
the 3 hours in at this
Yeah,
point.
3 hours in, and he says, DMC, you should do a comic book. And I say, no, I shouldn't. Nope. And he says, why not? I go, because I don't want to be another rapper just because I had a hit record thinking I could do everything.
Right.
Because hip hop has a habit of finding another niche and just doing it for commercial reasons.
Right.
And when they suck all the money out of that, they leave the culture to die by itself. You know what I'm saying? They suck all the energy and the power and the commercialization and make all the money, and then they move on to something next. Like that wasn't important. So I didn't want to disrespect the geeky nerds.
I love that.
You know what I'm saying? I don't want to disrespect the culture, but Rick said what you said. He said, D, it's different with you because hip-hop's your first love. You're not doing this for business or to do your next thing because you conquered hip-hop. This is your first love. And then he said this to me. To answer your question, with this book, you can do exactly what you've been doing for the last 35 years with your music and more. And I was like, what do you mean? Inspire, motivate, educate, and entertain. We want to do this book as a tribute and a celebration to what makes comics and geeky, cool things cool to every generation. So what we did was every issue will have an artist and a writer that is currently or who has written for Marvel or DC or a major imprint. But each issue has 4 to 5 different artists. I want to have Humberto Ramos do something and Amy Chu write.
Right.
But if I meet a little kid, 12 years old, who is better than Jack Kirby right now, I want to give that kid, of course you got to go through protocol, go
Right.
through your schooling and stuff like that. But if somebody is dope now, I want to give them that opportunity now. So when they do go for their interview at Marvel or DC, and Marvel or DC say, now what have you done? I did DMC's comic book. Because when I was doing my records, the Easter eggs was always there. Crash through walls, come through floors, bust through ceilings and knock down doors. Rappers don't do that, superheroes don't do that. But then I noticed something. Everything that I started saying making believe I was on the mic started to come true. Run DMC started to dominate the charts. We knocked down walls. We changed the whole industry.
You changed
so
everything.
I realized that the power is in the artistic expression of all of us. The art succeeds where politics and religion fails. Hip hop was just the medium that I could go through to express
and
my
you just said
talents.
something. We got to go in a second.
Yes,
which
yes.
I mean, I could talk to you for hours, but I have to ask you this, and I'm hoping. I'm hoping you answer the way I'd like you to.
Yes.
Bruh, with your positivity, with the message that you have, in the culture we are in politically, would you ever consider running for any kind of office? You have a name, you have a message, you got a lot of love, you got a lot of energy, you're in good shape, you could get around there,
You know how many
start
people
talking to the
told me
people.
that? You
Well,
know
maybe
how
there's a
many
reason
people
for
told me
that. Come on now.
It's scary though.
Yeah, it
But
is.
you know what? I
But
don't
who
know.
couldn't relate to you? You're a person
I know, the
whose
only
whole
way
life
I
has been
would
in public
do it,
sector.
The only way I would do it if I could come in and then change the way things are that day. Because one thing I hate about politics is this. Well, you know, you have to go. No, we don't. No, who said no?
Right.
Let's go find. Yo, you got to go. In order for I could do more not being in politics, because what I mean by that is, as soon as you label something, from politics and religion, the world is messed up because of the establishmentarialism
Of both sides. Like once you say
Yes.
you're a Democrat,
it's a beef.
half the
That's
country
what I'm
hates you.
saying.
And I
Right,
say
right,
that
right,
all the time, right?
right.
You put a label on
It's
it, and then
the
you're automatically
That's
in
his
that
thing.
category.
No,
And
we
that's
could
what,
be
yeah.
the greatest people in the world, but the minute you say you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat, you gotta be. And even with religion, when you look at the Christian religion, there's Episcopalian and this and that, but man, let's just remove all the labels. You can be that. It's one thing to be, like I'm hip hop and this guy's metal and rock. Here's a perfect example. I'm hip hop, Run DMC's hip hop, and the Beastie Boys are punks. They came, got with us, and we went around and we changed the world. That's how you get, people said there's no way these black hip hoppers, this is 1987, is gonna get with these white punk rockers, and this is before the Beasties found Buddhism.
Right.
But y'all remember the Beasties?
Yes.
Remember back?
Oh, man.
These were the Beasties
I
with
was
the
listening
big
to both you guys
penises
all
on
morning.
stage. The naked girls, the beard was crazy. But they said there's no way that these black hip hoppers and these white punk rockers going to get together and tour and make the world better. But we did.
Right.
So I think what my job is to do what Ray said, to do what I've done with my music in all of these other areas first. I've done music, now I'm in the comic books. Let me get the cartoon on TV. Let me get the sitcoms here. Let me get there. Let me establish my presence in pop culture. Because the funny joke is, when Christmas comes, Christmas in Hollis, that record is so generationally, globally impactful. I'm talking about Jewish people, Muslim people, Chinese people, the monks, black people, white people, Italian people. They all say, it's Christmas time in Hollis.
Hollis, Queens.
You know what we You don't even have to eat the food, but it's the essence of the spirit of it.
Right.
So I think what I have to do now that I'm at this point now, thankfully, the three things that I got going for me is this. I didn't OD, I'm not in jail for life, and I didn't get shot and killed. So when I look at my career, that's the most important thing. If I can do what I did when I was 12 years old, put that on a record now, and kids, I'm 53, so everybody 52 and younger can be impacted by everything that I've done so far. And it's not done in a way where it's preachy, and it's not done in a way where you're wrong if you're in a gang or you're wrong if you're Muslim. If I can creatively utilize the presentation of what is inside of all of us, then that's when we're going to see change. We got to establish the change in the people first before these dudes in these White Houses make the change. And there's a lot of good people there, but the good people there, they don't got no strength. So how do we do that? Through our music, through our art, through our plays, through our comedy, through our TV shows. We got to bring fun to establish change.
I'll just say this. I've been working with Jeff for a year. He is one of the most positive people that I've ever met. With all the things that you've gone through and all the things that you've accomplished, Why did you go and how did you become such a positive person instead of becoming bitter and cynical? Like, what is it inside of you that made you such a positive human being?
Because when I was little, and I was growing up in Hollis, Queens, New York, getting teased, bullied, and picked on, I'm looking around, and everybody is, even now, negativity is celebrated. Negativity is disrespect and ignorance and, not respecting each other. It's celebrated. And the reason why I say it's celebrated, they think negativity makes you tough. So I'm growing up and I'm watching all this negativity around me get celebrated, and it's not getting us nowhere. But then I'm looking at the other geeks and nerds, I'm looking at the kids that's going to school, I'm looking at the kids that don't sell drugs, I'm looking at nobody talks about those things.
Right.
So for me, when I was time, when I had my opportunity, I want the kid in Compton to be able to go sit in the room with the kid from Harvard and realize that we're just kids or we're just people. So being able to do what Wycliffe said, he said DMC is the only MC that can make positivity gangster.
Yeah.
He said he's the only dude that can rhyme about St. John's University, chicken and collard greens, wearing glasses, and Christmas time and make it hard. So for me, I see a power in being good.
Let's close.
I say we end it there, man.
I just want to thank you. It's been an honor being in your
No,
presence.
it's
Thank you so
I
much.
just went out, man.
Yeah.
Because that was amazing.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, bro.
Definitely.
Hey, bro.
I mean,
Pleasure,
never
man.
read my childhood, but you just
Thank
blew
you.
my mind.
Oh,
yes.
That was an impactful
Thank
half
you,
hour,
thank
man.
you.
Honestly.
Thank you.
Cow.
Jordan.
I feel inspired.